Although Bamakepa is not particularly known for worshipping Kali, he was such a great mother worshipper and contemporary of Sri Ramakrishna that he should be mentioned. Bamakepa worshipped Mother in the form of Tara and became a famous tantric saint practicing sadhana at the Tirupith cremation ground. Tirupith in West Bengal is difficult to get to and, therefore, only a few Westerners have visited this ancient spiritual center. Tirupith is situated in the district of Birbhum, home of the Bals and birthplace of famous Vaishnava and Shakta saints. Bamakepa was born in 1837, 1 year after Sri Ramakrishna near Tirupith in the village of Alta. Although his parents were poor Brahmins, Bamakepa's father, Sarvananda Chatterjee, was well known and respected for his piety, and so was Bamakepa's mother, Rajkumari. His name was actually Bama, but since he showed absolutely no interest in worldly matters even from early youth on, people called him Mad and added Kepa, mad, to his name. Kepa is a term used mostly by tantrics and Bals and is not an ordinary madness. One who is called Kepa is generally considered a great soul. As a young boy, Bamakepa had a peculiar habit. At the dead of night, he liked to steal into his neighbors' houses, take their images of gods and goddesses and carry them to a riverbank some distance away. There he worshipped the images all night long. When, in the morning, the villagers couldn't find their family deities, they would make a big scene. Bamakepa was discovered as the culprit, but, no matter how severely his parents scolded him, they could not prevent him from taking the images. Bamakepa's education never went beyond the simple village school he attended. There was not enough money in the family to send the boy away for higher education and study of the scriptures. His father died when Bamakepa was very young, and, therefore, his mother and widowed elder sister were the first ones who gave him any kind of spiritual instructions. They told the boy ancient Hindu stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and it was due to their efforts that Bamakepa developed a spiritual sentiment early in life. He enjoyed singing devotional songs, which he became rather good at it, to the delight of his mother and elder sister. Financial troubles worsened, and Bamakepa's mother had to send him and his brother to live at an uncle's house. The uncle made an effort to make the boys active parts of his family and dispatched them to look after his cows. But when he found Bamakepa unfit to take care even this simple task, he sent him back home to his mother. Bamakepa proved incompetent to perform any kind of work. All he wanted to do was worship Mother Tara. When he saw a red hibiscus flower, he thought of Ma Tara. When he uttered Ma Tara, he became unconscious of his surroundings. Even his mother was convinced her son was mad and, in order to keep him out of harm's way, she put him under house arrest. But at an opportune moment, Bamakepa broke out, swam across the river Dvarka and walked all the way to holy Tirupith. He had heard about Kailasapeshi Baba, the well-known tantric who was believed to be a realized soul. Bamakepa went straight to his cottage. Recognizing Bamakepa's potential for spiritual realization, the Baba accepted him as his disciple. Bamakepa began to practice serious tantric sadhana under the guidance of Kailasapeshi Baba. Meanwhile, Bamakepa's mother was worried about her son and, after a long search, found him in Kailasapeshi Baba's cottage. When she realized that she couldn't persuade him to come with her, she asked one of her family members who was a prominent man in town to help him. This uncle, by the name of Durgacharan Sarkar, was an agent of the Maharaja of Naturi and, using his influence in Tirupith, he procured Bamakepa a job of collection flowers for the service at the Tirupith temple. But Bamakepa was not meant for work, and couldn't perform this task. Instead of picking flowers, he sat absorbed in thoughts of the Divine Mother. Forgetful of his physical comforts, he was unaware if it was day or night, hot or cold, rain or sunshine. Smoking hemp, he lived in the Tirupith cremation ground surrounded by snakes, dogs, cats, and jackals. Although Bamakepa seemed to have caused nothing but trouble to his mother, and he had not contacted her for a long time, he had great love and reverence for her. When news reached Tirupith that she had died and that her body could not be brought to the Tirupith cremation ground due to excessive flooding, Bamakepa swam across the flood-swollen river. With his mother's dead body in his arms, he returned to Tirupith and asked his brother Ramcharan to perform the funeral rites. How could this poor family afford to pay for the funeral? By divine providence, as it were, money and good came to feed all the guests. People in Tirupith still tell the story about the dark clouds that appeared in the sky as the body of Bamakepa's mother was burnt. Though a sudden heavy downpour flooded all of Tirupith, not a single drop fell on the funeral gathering. Bamakepa was in the habit of moving around completely naked. One day someone asked him, "Why are you naked?" Bamakepa replied, "My father, Shiva, is naked, my mother, Tara, is also naked. So, I am practicing that. Moreover, I don't live in society. I live in the cremation ground with my mother. So I have no shame or fear. Under the guidance of his guru Kailaspati Baba and the tantric master Mokshananda, Bamakepa completed all the major tantric rites and sadhana in accordance with the Shastras, scriptures. It is interesting that Bamakepa, like Sri Ramakrishna, practiced Tantra while remaining absolutely celibate. Just as Sri Ramakrishna, Bamakepa also looked upon women as mother. One day a beautiful, young woman tried to tempt Bamakepa by offering herself to him as his Bhairavi, here meaning, partner in sexual practices. No matter how much she tried, she could find no male sign in him. Suddenly, Bamakepa cried out Ma Tara and bit the woman's breast. Blood oozed from her breast and she fell down unconscious. When Bamakepa's spiritual guides saw that their disciple had attained perfection, Kailaspati Baba and Mokshananda installed him as the spiritual leader of Tarapith and left. Yet nothing, not even this high honor, could bind Bamakepa. He neglected to follow temple regulations and did not obey social rules. Sometimes he sat with stray dogs, sharing his food with them, and sometimes he answered calls of nature within the holy temple terrain. He was not concerned, and the thought of purity or impurity did not enter his mind. He had practiced same-sightedness for so long. One day the temple priests caught Bamakepa eating the temple food before it was offered to Matara. They were so angry with him that they stopped supplying him with food. 4 days after this incident, the Maharani, Queen, of Natore had a strange dream. Matara appeared to her and said, "I am thinking of leaving this place. I asked my favorite son Bamakepa to eat, the priests have beaten him and taken away his food. If my son does not eat first, how can I, his mother?" When she woke up, the Maharani ordered that, henceforth, Bamakepa should be fed before Matara. After that, nobody dared to obstruct Bamakepa. The mad saint of Tarapith became famous for his yogic powers and even people from far away came to see him. Some sought nothing but his blessings while others asked to be healed or helped in distress. Bamakepa healed many sick people with his psychic powers. Once a dying man came to Tarapith and asked Bamakepa for prasad, consecrated food. Bamakepa took pity on him and fed him with his own hand. Soon after, the man miraculously recovered and walked home. There was a leper in Tarapith by the name of Nanda Hundi, who belonged to the untouchable caste. Nanda often brought Bamakepa food and, although he was a Brahmin of the highest caste, Bamakepa accepted Nanda's food. In return for the favor, he gave Nanda some mud one day and asked him to rub it on his sores. Nanda did as told and the terrible leprosy left his body. A man from Balagram by the name of Nimai suffered terribly from hernia problems. He had so much pain that he was unable to maintain his family. Thinking he was of no use to anybody, not even to himself, he resolved to commit suicide. Rope in hand, he came to Tarapith one dark night with the intention to hang himself. Suddenly, he heard a terrible voice. It was Bamakepa calling upon Matara. Nimai was too scared to commit suicide and, not knowing what to do with himself, he remained in Tarapith near Bamakepa. One day Nimai enraged Bamakepa because he lit his pipe on Bamakepa's holy Duni fire. The angry saint kicked the hernia patient in the lower part of his abdomen and Nimai fell down unconscious. But to his great surprise, when Nimai got up some time later, he was completely cured of the hernia afflictions. Another story about Bamakepa tells of a dying tuberculosis patient who was brought to the saint on a stretcher for final blessings. Instead of blessing the man, Bamakepa caught him by the neck. Furiously choking and shaking the man, Bamakepa shouted, "Now, will you commit any more sin?" Strangely enough, after Bamakepa's rough treatment, the man got off the stretcher, asked for some food and drink and then walked home, healthier and wiser. But not all people who approached Bamakepa were so lucky. When a couple of snobbish young men made fun of Bamakepa because he shared his food with stray dogs, Bamakepa suddenly touched them. To their horror, they saw in a vision that Bamakepa and the dogs had turned into gods while they had turned into hideous bats. Having heard about Bamakepa's healing powers, a priest by the name of Nagan Panda brought a dying man to Tarapith. The sick man was very rich, and Nagan Panda thought that he would be richly rewarded if he could get Bamakepa to cure him. But contrary to Nagan Panda's expectation, Bamakepa did nothing of the sort. He just uttered the word fat and the man died immediately. Furious, Nagan Panda accused Bamakepa of killing the man. "I am not responsible," said Bamakepa, "for it was the mother who spoke through me." Bamakepa was not learned but the mother revealed everything to him, as he used to say. The saint of Tarapith lived a long life and through his holy presence sanctified the place and the people who came in contact with him. He entered Mahasamadhi, final liberation, in 1911.